Warning, Weird West Radio contains adult language and discussions. If you're easily offended, do not continue to listen.
In this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns, and those who dig. You dig.
What you and I do is so complicated.
I need your help, Dolores. I think I made a mistake.
So our creatures have been misbehaving.
I think there may be something wrong with this world.
No choice you ever made.
All right, hello everybody. Welcome to Weird West Radio, the Westworld edition of Weird West Radio. That's right, we will be covering every single episode of Westworld, HBO's Westworld. We'll be covering it all fall. So hopefully you guys will follow along and enjoy our discussions. Of course, I am here with Clint. Hello, Clint.
Hello, Michael.
Now, this show is definitely a change of pace of things that we've done in the past. I had some people even question, like, why are you guys doing that? Like, I get it. It's a Western, but it doesn't seem like, you know, the things you've done for TV shows in the past. And I want to disagree. I think this is actually more relevant in terms of the title of our show, actually more relevant than any other television show we've actually chosen to discuss.
I would agree.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Hell on Wheels and I love Longmire, but I felt like this show, this genre, fits directly into what makes a Weird West. A Weird West. You know, there are some elements that I think teeter a lot closer to sci-fi Western. But as I said before, I definitely would encompass this into the Weird West genre. So we'll be covering this and lots to get through. I know the first episode it had to screw with me, Clint. It had, I mean, I sat there for like 2 hours putting together the show notes for the first episode because Jonathan Nolan is an intelligent guru that just jams all types of metaphors and symbolism into the first episode. I knew this is the type of show that would have that, but I was hoping he kind of strung us along a bit for at least 3 or 4 episodes before he got so effing deep with the symbolism.
Me too.
Which, the more symbolism in a show, the longer it takes to do the show notes, because then I like to tie in, you know, of course, our discussionary topics, and kind of help people steer in their mind's eye through the episode a bit. So hopefully that's something that you guys will be able to take away from this broadcast, is hopefully we can open your eyes a bit and shed some light on some of the plot developments and the narrative choices that Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy Nolan, his wife, decide to take us down. So, you know, I want to start this show a little differently. I want, in about 30 seconds or less, Clint, I want to get your general thoughts on the episode. Before we break down the nitty-gritty, I want to get 15 seconds. 15 seconds. I'll make it even tougher. 15 seconds, a general idea of how you felt about this episode. Go.
I found it very interesting, just from our standpoint of how we're going to talk about this world. When we talked about Hell on Wheels and Longmire, we actually talked about them as, say, real people, you know, real feelings, or the characters were real. As far as the episode went, I thought it was pretty cool. I just kind of wish that maybe we backed off about 30% of all the information and kind of let us into the world, maybe a fly on the wall into Westworld, instead of kind of the Wizard of Oz syndrome, where we see behind the curtain right away. I kind of wish we would have traveled through the world first.
Right, I agree with that. I wish we got less Westworld and more of a West Town to start with.
Yeah, that's even better.
But not to say that the episode wasn't enjoyable, but I think you and I have, pretty much are on the same track in terms of thoughts on the episode. Yeah, it was fun. It was great. I mean, it was just the production quality is just fantastic and the acting was great. But yeah, first episode did have a lot to digest. On that note, let's get into this. This series is inspired by the 1973 film of the same title, written by Michael Crichton, about a futuristic theme park populated by artificial beings. The first episode that we will be discussing, of course, is titled The Original. The Original is the premiere episode of Westworld and the first episode of the first season. The episode was co-written by series creator Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, and also directed by Nolan. You don't see showrunners a lot of times getting behind the camera, getting out from the writing table and getting on location to direct an episode. A lot of times you have showrunners, they pop up on set, they're the boss of the show. I mean, for those of you that aren't aware, showrunners and the head writers for TV, they're essentially the director of the film, if you want to compare it that way. They wield the real power over the television directors themselves. So it's kind of interesting to see the head writer on the very first episode getting behind the camera on set and directing the episode. And the reason why I bring that up is because I know Nolan is a very hands-on guy, and he just got off doing a television show called Person of Interest, which was on CBS network television. And I'm not the biggest fan of network television. I think HBO, Showtime, Cinemax, FX, AMC, I think they're kind of they cater more to my taste of programming nowadays. However, Person of Interest was a damn good show. Christopher Nolan knows how to write the hell out of a TV show, and he's very hands-on. And it gave me a lot of faith in the series, knowing that Nolan was taking a very hands-on approach from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. And it shows me that he wants to finesse and tell the story very delicately. And when you see a writer do that, well, sometimes, writers don't have what it takes in terms of the dynamics of directing, because it is a different beast. But if you have that ability to command that set and you know what you're doing, I think it's a smart move. Mm-hmm. Why not get the guy who knows the entire story, who understands the themes, understands the symbolism that he's trying to convey? Why not get that man actually all the hats and have him direct exactly how it needs to be done? Okay. Now, this very first episode, we saw that the programmer Bernard is suspicious about incidents of behavior in the recoded hosts, specifically with Dolores, which is the main lead, who plays the main android, I guess, in the story so far, when she encounters with an artifact of the outside world. Now, this is actually the catalyst of, I guess, the entire plot. The plot point stems from the recent update. The update, much like what we do today with our computers, and, especially Windows updates, they like to mess with us. Yeah. They like to fuck with us, and they mess up our computers. And that's what we saw that kind of jump-started this TV show. We open up right after a recent update on these droids, and these updates actually have created awareness of sorts within the droids, something that these androids or these artificial intelligent life forms have not had up to this point, at least as we know yet. Mm-hmm. The use of the fly, partially a writing device and partially symbolic for awareness, it was a kind of an interesting way to start the show, showing that they're not quite aware of their surroundings. Also, it's a great way to convey to the audience that they are unable to hurt a life. But of course, that did change at the very end when Dolores actually swatted at the fly and killed it.
I was also surprised the young man that she was courting took shots at the Man in Black.
Yeah.
When we were, when he even says, the Man in Black says, "You can't kill me or hurt me," but yet I forgot his name. But anyway, he takes
Teddy.
What's his name?
Teddy. Yeah,
He
Teddy.
takes these shots at the Man in Black, and we find that he's reacting, and he wants to hurt the Man in Black. I was kind of surprised at that because, even the Man in Black was kind of shocked that he got shot.
Which I'm sure this is going to be a slow progression. I think you're going to see these people, as they become aware, they're going to have the ability to defend themselves or enact revenge, as what we saw later in the episode. We saw the threats. Everything's leading down the path, Clint, for me. And again, jump in if you disagree. But I think this is going to be an exploration into humanity. And I hope it's not too on the nose, meaning mankind is evil and the androids are good. And, this is what happens when you mess with evolution and whatnot. I'm kind of hoping it doesn't go down that route. I don't mind exploration into the human psyche and what makes a human and whatnot. But I'm hoping it's not too on the nose, because they did give us so much foreshadowing and so much symbolism. It does seem like it's going down that path.
For me, it almost seemed like the Man in Black will be our darkest thoughts, because of how he was kind of, basically how he treated Dolores, how he handled her dad, and then definitely his search for more.
And and we're not quite sure what the Man in Black is looking for yet. We know that he's trying to figure things out, correct?
Yeah, he seemed very interested in the top brass or what's happening and how this has all has come about. He thinks there's a bigger meaning too, also.
Now, in the movie, the Man in Black was a robot.
Yeah.
He was the one who kept everybody in line.
Yep.
He was the enforcer. So we automatically see that this is a much different version of the Man in Black, which is also, of course, played by Ed Harris.
He's excellent.
Yeah, he's so good. But I'm wondering if he is a robot himself.
And he's kind of
he's already been the first one to evolve.
Ooh.
And trying to figure out the purpose of his existence and maybe even get at the creators. That's kind of what I started thinking about.
That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
Now I was wondering. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's all right. Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is I was actually wondering that while I was watching. Is there going to be a little sneak peek, a little Easter egg of him being a robot or one of these beings? I thought that we would see like a little inkling of that.
Yeah.
But we saw Teddy shoot him, and they're not supposed to hurt, so that's why I was kind of surprised of all that. And then I like that idea. I'm
wondering if he's evolved so much to where their programming doesn't let them hurt him right now because he's evolved so much.
Right.
And now he's no different than a human being. Now, according to staying on the path of the Man in Black, he's of course going to represent the evil in the story. Jonathan Nolan already said in an interview that the Man in Black represents all the evil humans, all that the evil humans are capable of. While Teddy is the opposite. He represents a perfect but programmed righteousness. This difference is highlighted when the robots wake up the next morning to do it all again, and we hear the new pair of visitors remark on Teddy, where he says, "Oh my God, they're so lifelike." Remember when they're in the train the second day, and they look at Teddy and they say, "Oh, he's perfect," and the other one says, "Perfect is boring. I'm more interested in the bad guys."
Yeah, she is. So
yeah, I'll show you a bad guy.
We're going to go back Hell on Wheels style on this one.
So yes, we are definitely exploring the inherent flaws of mankind. I think that's the way, I don't have a problem with that. It's just the way they go about it. And the reason why I believe that is definitely what they're doing. Not only do they have this evil manifestation, which is, the Man in Black, but we also have the Dr. Ford, the one who did this update. And we have to realize that a man like this, he's capable of mistakes. He's a human being. But it's almost as if he made a mistake on purpose because he didn't care. He seemed very nonchalant about it when Bernard approached him and said, hey, there's an issue with your update. And he made this whole speech about mistakes and about how as human beings we used to make, I'm paraphrasing here, but we used to make mistakes. I'm going to look it up here. I have it written down. He's an update to the robot's programming known as reveries, as they call them, which allows them to be lost in thought as they access past memories. Okay, so we get a feeling that the creator of Westworld, Dr. Ford, has been pushing his creations to be more and more lifelike. And there's something about that because the fact that he says he brings up humankind and how that Dr. Ford gives a speech about humans as are a result of evolution, a series of millions of mistakes and natural selection. And of course, anybody who's taken a high school course or a college course in evolution knows that that's very true. If you believe in evolution, that we are a series of mistakes. But now we've reached an age where we can keep anyone alive with our technology. That's what Dr. Ford said, meaning that we are at the end of the road of evolution. Okay, meaning we no longer can evolve to be something different or maybe even something better.
Yeah, it doesn't even say this is the end.
Right, yeah.
I thought that was kind of a big statement.
Right, hence we are as good as we'll ever be. Now, we also get to the point that is maybe if you go along with the line of thinking that what Dr. Ford said about humans, now not humans as the being of humans, but I'm talking about the essence of humanity. If that is what we are, is a series of mistakes, and he believes that's a problem with humankind, is he trying to make a course correction in humanity artificially? Meaning, is he creating mistakes with his androids so that they can begin to be aware and evolve in a way that humans have stopped? Is he trying to correct the course of humankind via artificially? Because that's the first thing I thought when I was watching this. I'm like, okay, so he makes a speech about humans being mistakes and how they no longer make mistakes thanks to technology. We've become stale. We've become evil. We've become lustful. So here I am, mad science here. Let me try to correct the course of evolution and now fix the flaws and create a new version of humankind. And then this brings in the whole question of humanity and the soul. What really makes a human and what really defines a soul? Is it robot? Is it human? Or is it how you live and how you evolve and how you become?
Because Dolores actually is the good part of humanity.
Right.
So that's, and he does have bad people or bad robots inside inside this world to kind of, they attack each other.
Right.
Like humans attack each other, so it's an interesting plan.
Dynamic. it's interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
I mean, you can even go down this route a little bit more. I mean, the milk, okay, is, as we saw, again, I had to think about this one. Milk is used a lot to symbolize purity and life. Especially if you get into the story, if you start delving into creation and evolution and humanity, it makes sense that you now look at the milk aspect of things in a much broader sense. Okay. For example, milk is a powerful symbol within most cultural traditions. It is the fluid of eternal life and fertility and abundance. It is the food of the gods and the first human diet. Mm-hmm. It flows freely in the promised land of Canaan. Milk symbolizes the mother. So it is deeply connected with life itself. Now, what else is the life force of humans? Blood. And I think just to hammer that over you a bit more, that's why you have that guy dumping milk down the other gentleman's throat when he kills him, and the milk coming out of the bullet holes. It was all there to symbolize that these creatures are coming to life, and that's their life force. This is a new direction of humanity that Dr. Ford has set in motion.
And we don't know if he's totally crazy or not.
Come on, he's got to be a little crazy. Any man trying to create that uncanny valley aspect of life, where things look so realistic. He is a mad scientist. He's kind of messing with fire here, which is not going to end well.
No. I did like the little subtle throwback to the movie, though, when he was talking to Bill and they were having some coffin varnish. Yeah. And he was talking to his head programmer, and he says, back in the day, they were just as lifelike until you shook their hand. And that was a big deal in the movie, where they were talking about the only way you can tell is from their hands. They haven't perfected the hands. So I thought that was kind of a neat little throwback for them to do. Yeah. And it was subtle. It was very subtle.
I liked it too. And also it played a good part. There was definitely nothing throwaway in this episode. Yes, that was a throwback, but it also played, I think, a much bigger part in the story in terms of Dr. Ford's, where he's at wherever his mind's at. There is definitely a loss, a kind of a sense of sorrow and sadness to Ford. Would you agree?
Yes.
It's almost like he has been around for a very long time, and he's witnessed kind of the destruction of humanity, and he sees a sense of innocence when he looks at his first versions of his creatures. And in a lot of ways, he sees that as a contrast to what he sees with humans and what they used to be. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like where I think that's the whole point of him sitting down with his creation, almost like God coming down to judge his creatures before he enacts Armageddon. Like, I'm going to sit down with my creatures and remember how they were at one point in time.
Well, just the discussion between the Doctor and Bill.
It was so good.
They were talking about how nothing is made like it used to be, and Bill even says, even men.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That's good. Pretty, for just a short little scene, that was huge.
Yeah. Absolutely. It was great. Kind of sticking with this, we also see Dolores's dad kind of lose his mind after seeing a photograph of a woman in Times Square, and I knew that was going to end bad when he kept looking at it.
Kind of stroked out.
Yeah, and kind of flipping out. And he tried to show his daughter it, and she didn't have any recollection. She couldn't even see it. I love that. I love that, being blind to the world around you. Mm. The fact that she wasn't quite having that awareness yet, and that she couldn't even see it. She was not capable of seeing the meaning of life. And that's kind of what that picture was. It's no different than if someone was given the secrets to all of the universe. Much like, this is kind of way off the deep end here, totally different type of story, but even like an Indiana Jones, the one that no one liked, the latest one,
Crystal Skull.
Yeah, the Crystal Skull, where your mind could not handle the knowledge of the universe, and you would blow up because it's just too much for the human mind. And that's kind of what happened with Dolores's father, the rancher, is he got a glimpse of reality, and it enveloped him and made him question what something was that he couldn't understand, to the point where he was whispering, into Dolores's ear, Shakespearean quotes about these violent delights have violent ends, which is I believe is a quote from Romeo and Juliet. Mm. Which again can play a part in what's happening to Dolores, being forced to live. How many days has she witnessed someone that she loves die on repeat?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, inevitably, again, this is me watching one episode, but kind of taking these clues, these breadcrumbs that Nolan and the writers are kind of throwing at us. Seems to me like they're setting up for a hostile takeover, like revenge droids, and not from a like a violent, bloodthirsty way, but almost like a revolt, a civil revolt. Freedom. Being uncontrolled, like, take these chains off me. I don't want to be controlled anymore. Being forced to witness horrible atrocities. I mean, the father, when he was being interviewed in that, catatonic state, whatever you want to call it, was talking about getting revenge.
Mm-hmm.
Because he remembers, even though he's reciting past programs, he's using what he knows. It's like if you were given Spanish. Okay, let's say someone told you,
well, good luck.
Well, hold on a second. It's like he's reciting, he's using the language he knows to convey his feelings.
Sure.
It's like having a very limited vocabulary. Let's say your second language is Spanish, and you can only convey the way you feel in a very small, marginal way because your vocabulary is limited. And that's kind
what
of...
I do. Haven't I done that for the past 3 years, Mike?
So dumb. So dumb. But I kind of like that. I like that the droid, showing that they're still robots, that he's only accessing things that he knows, but it shows a sense of smarts and awareness that he's tapping into the things he knows and then using those elements, those tools to convey, acts of anger and emotion and vengeance.
Well, and I think that's what we might see with Dolores, because she has been abused a couple times or more.
Oh, yeah.
And I think she's going to go back to this. We were talking about the update reveries. They don't lose.
Yeah.
I think you put it here in the show notes, to be lost, which allows them to be lost in thought as they access past memories, the reveries.
Yeah.
And I think what might happen is we might see Dolores, because she is the good, she sees the beauty and everything, she may start to turn. And after so many bad experiences, we probably will see her get a little darker. I'm just speculating.
Yeah. Well, we do need to get, there's got to be some type of, this is a Western, obviously. I don't think Christopher Nolan, he didn't choose Westworld just because of it being Westworld. It's a cool little backdrop to tell a story. As we've said before, the general theme of Westerns is what? Open terrain, freedom. What did the West represent to so many immigrants and people who came over to this country? Open land that they can claim for themselves. The bonds of, their former countries and their former lives don't exist here, and everybody has the ability to grow and broaden and become who they are as individuals.
And freedom.
So, freedom, yes. And I think that's something that's going to play a huge part. And they're going to use that Western archetype as a way to tell their story. So yes, I do think we're going to see a revolt. Even if we take that's what happened in the Westworld movie. We're going to see a little bit of that happening. And we're going to see them taking out their problems on the tourists who treat them like they're no different than a doll that has no life. And, and maybe from a moral, ethical standpoint, yeah, you're right. You're killing things that don't live. But Dr. Ford obviously has been working on them to make them more aware. And once you have a consciousness and you're aware, isn't that kind of the definition of living?
Mm-hmm.
You have a sense of consciousness. You understand. You're aware of your surroundings. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out, man, because there's so many things they laid down for us to kind of delve into and think about. It's so much more. We can keep talking about this in circles, but I think at this point it would just be us kind of completely spitballing.
There was a lot in this episode. You and I were talking earlier. There's just so much in an hour. What was it? Hour and a half of movie of show, and it was just, we were kind of discussing like where we both sat with it, and it seemed like it was, for me, like I said, little 30% back. I think it would have been a little easier to digest, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I agree. There was a lot. I know you and I were talking about off air that it's almost like they it's like the Wizard of Oz, and they showed us behind the curtain a little too soon. They gave us too much. It would have been nice to kind of explore the town and the dynamics of the people living within this fake world, and even introduce the human element as well, but allow us to kind of figure it out ourselves. I felt like they really beat us over the head with symbolism, and I think a lot of it, I mean, do you think this will be a little too like, do you think this is going to be a too like, is it too abstract, too avant-garde for general audiences to grasp? Or do you think it's a straightforward enough story that people can also sit down on a Sunday night when they are getting ready to go to work and kind of just kick back and relax? Or is it going to be something that's really forcing people to think about the show?
I definitely think you're going to have to think about the show. What I'm kind of hoping is that they just kind of overdid it in the first episode just to kind of get you going.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that the next few episodes were kind of a little more brain relaxed. Not totally. I like to think about my shows, but I don't need to be gun to my head through the whole thing. This is kind of that feeling I had when I remember Carnival.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That show was kind of this way for me in just this episode, but that was a whole season.
Wow.
I love the show, but there was a lot going on in every single episode. And so I'm hoping that they don't do that to this show.
Yeah.
Because it was a lot.
Yeah. And they gave us a lot, but at the same time, they didn't give us enough. And I used this analogy before we started recording today, but it's like, hey, I have a Diet Coke in this cup here and it tastes good. Okay. I'm like, great. Okay. So you're telling me what it is. You're telling me that it's good, but you're not letting me taste it. And that's kind of what I felt the writers did with this first pilot episode. It's like, hey guys, here's this world. The androids are thinking a lot. They have awareness. And this is the direction of the story. Here's this, here's that. And that was it. Like, I felt like they tried to tell us a lot without really giving us much. Like, there was odd things. And maybe that's the genius of the episode. Maybe Nolan is trying to give us a sense of reality, like reality is odd, reality is off. Maybe he's trying to give us this weird feeling when we're watching the show, because I really couldn't quite figure out where we're at. I mean, as a society, if this is in fact a journey into the mind of humanity and what really makes a human, and the exploration of the path that humans can go down, bloodlust, jealousy, immorality, all these things, then I want to see what the world has become. And I felt like I didn't even know where we were at for a long time. I felt like the world was inside of like maybe a giant warehouse, and it was like Truman Show. Like there was an end to the landscape at some point. Yeah. But no, as we find out with the two programmers, when they were actually outside on a terrace looking out at the Western landscape.
Talking politics.
Talking politics, which is a great way to kind of, a little bit of exposition to kind of help us understand the world. We already know they're shareholders. We understand that obviously greed has kind of, nothing has changed in our time period. Like, and are we truly in the future? How long in the future? Are we 100 years, 200 years, 300 years? I have to imagine that we're at least 300 years in the future with that type of technology, with the artificial life. And that's where I start finding myself get distracted, because instead of worrying about the story in front of us, I find myself wondering and worrying about the world that we're in. So you show us that we're in this science fiction world, but you don't show us any of it really. We're inside of a lab, and we're out in the desert. Mm-hmm. And maybe if they gave us more, it'd be even more. To see, this is where it's odd for me, because we are talking about them giving us too much, but I think they might have given us too much of the wrong thing.
Like I was mentioned before, what I would have liked to seen is maybe even if they went, say, a half hour of us on I don't know if you've ever been on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride where you kind of go through the towns and the craziness and all that. I would have liked to just kind of went through the town and went into some saloons and walked around and saw the artificial intelligence and saw some real people maybe bumping into each other and yada, yada, yada. And then instead of these little cutscenes back and forth to the lab, then maybe the next half hour go to the lab or something like that. It would have just been a little easier for a simple mind like myself to digest. That was kind of what I was thinking. I was kind of hoping is what would have happened. I understand what you're saying as far as like, they're giving us, maybe they didn't give us enough or maybe not the right way. For me, I just kind of wish we would have spent a little time in the town to kind of get situated, wrap our minds around this fake world, and then maybe head into who's handling it instead of just kind of cutscenes into the lab and then go back out and then the lab, then back out. It just kind of was mind numbing, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not a right word, but confusing.
I think we're describing it differently, but it's the same. I think we've both had the same thoughts. It's like good story, good setup, great production value, good acting. There's not much to complain about, but like they gave us way too much of certain things and not enough of others. And I don't. This is the first pilot or the first episode. I don't want to start complaining about it quite yet. I don't think it's bad, and I honestly think it's probably like an A episode. But I also don't know how the general audiences are truly going to react to this, because the HBO had record breaking numbers for the episode. But does that mean people are going to come back for the second episode? So we will see what happens, and we'll find out next week whether or not we were right. Is it just too much? Is it too avant-garde for mainstream audiences? And we have to realize that HBO is mainstream now. It's not network television, but HBO is putting up some decent numbers now. This isn't HBO from 10 years ago. Most people subscribe to HBO just to watch what's on. Especially with the HBO Now app, where you don't even have to have cable to watch it. That's why they did that. They wanted to open up the audiences so that more people can come watch their shows without having to have, a $200 a month cable.
Yes.
Yeah. So who knows? Time will tell.
I'm sorry.
I'm just saying time will tell whether or not this episode was just filled with so much exposition and symbolism and not enough actual story. And we'll see. Second episode, if they slow things down a bit, I think that'll be good. I think that'll be kind of a nice, I think that's what we need. I think in the second episode, I think we need to slow down on the symbolism and kind of give us a little bit of a story and development, a true development on characters.
And maybe it was just a setup to show you that not everything's going to be perfect. There's going to be glitches. There's going to be problems. And we have a man in black who's been going around for 30 years trying to figure this shit out. Yeah. And the show was just trying to get us caught up. Is that a good word? To caught up as far as what's happening and maybe what we're going to be seeing as far as maybe some program difficulties, people difficulties, as far as this whole world is concerned.
Yeah. Or, on that note, Clint, let's get, I don't want to say final thoughts because we kind of already did that, but what about favorite moment of this episode? And what are you hoping to see more of?
Oh, my favorite episode or favorite scene, probably, I like the, I love the gunfights. Even though the man in black didn't get shot down, I thought it was kind of cool to see that whole, that exchange. I did like kind of, not when her dad got shot, but, Teddy came up and started shooting from his lever action, taking down the bad guys. I'm kind of simple in that way, because I do think if you're going to have a Western, you're going to have the gunfights. And so I was kind of happy to see that we had something like that. I do like the idea. I like the scene, which was in there quite a bit, where it was like a giant screen and they could see what was happening. Like, you have the vast desert, but then they zoomed in on the town and could see what was happening in the town, and they saw the gunfight, the gunfight right in town there, to see what was going to happen. That was pretty badass. I really thought that was cool. What I'm hoping to see is, just like we were explaining, I'm just kind of hoping that we slow down, because now we're kind of caught up, or we got the gist of it, and we kind of go into more of story mode, where we see Dolores, maybe, like we said, kind of not seeing the world as hunky-dory. It's not all unicorns and rainbows, and there's bad people out there that want to do harm, and like you said, we might see a revolt, and we start seeing her recruit other robots, or they're called hosts, aren't they?
Yeah.
Hosts. And we actually see maybe them turning on some of the people that are programming them. It's so early, but I would like to see the progression of these hosts become their own person.
Yeah.
It's a different dynamic when we can't really call them a person, but
yeah,
it's fun.
No, well, okay, for me, I think my favorite element was the introduction into, I think, using Teddy as the introduction into the world, to where we weren't quite sure what he was. Was he human? Was he a robot? In fact, I was surprised. I thought he was one of the humans. I thought he was one of the humans coming in, one of the paid tourists coming in to play in the town. And I liked that they played with that a bit, showing us that reality isn't what it seems. And that's why it was smart. It was a great way to introduce the world and what we're about to get into. So that was probably my favorite moment in terms of writing. And what I hope to see more of is, I want to see some more Western elements. I mean, it is called Westworld. I understand it's a sci-fi, and I understand that we're probably not going to get it's not a shoot 'em up type of show, but I'm hoping we do get some truly good Western moments. I want them to really truly utilize the Western archetype. Let's see some of those things. Let's see the larger than life gunslinger. Let's see not, obviously we got the black, the man in black, which is great, but I really want them to get into the Western side of things.
He even scalped one of them.
Yeah, that was brutal, which that's a whole other scenario we'll talk about next time, which was on the other side of the scalp, what he found.
Yeah. Neat.
We're running out of time today.
Holy crap.
Anyways, I think that is it for the first broadcast. Hopefully you guys enjoy our ramblings on the first episode called The Original. And if we missed anything, which I'm sure we have because we are running out of time, please tweet us at Weird West Radio or Michael_Flores and let us know you're listening and tell us your thoughts on the broadcast and also the episode. I love talking to people about things and about the TV show. So let us know. And if this is the first time you've ever listened to this broadcast, you can find us on iTunes as well as Stitcher. Just search Weird West Radio. Thank you, Clint.
Thank you, Michael.
What you and I do is so complicated.
I need your help, Dolores. I think I made a mistake.
So our creatures have been misbehaving.
He be taken from such prison to a suitable and convenient place of execution within said county, and there be hanged by the neck till he be dead. Now, do you have anything to say, young man?
Yes, Your Honor, I do. You can go to hell.